Hi everyone and welcome back to our Devoted Cleric video guide series. In this video we are going to talk about gearing up our Cleric and gearing up specifically for the build we have talked about in the previous video, which is a crit based Divine Oracle buffing Righteous Cleric. So as a fair warning, do not watch my character sheet and think it's okay, I'm going to do that. No, this Cleric currently is PvP spec, so don't do that at home, okay? If you want to play PvE only, listen to this video and, well, I'll show you what you should use instead of this. So since this is a crit based build, we are going to need a lot of crit. A good amount of crit is 40, 50, maybe 60% is a good way to use it, because you want actually your buff to be up as soon as you can. Let's get to the dummies and show how much we are currently at 45% crit, so in most cases you should be able to crit with at least one of your critical divine mode chains, but in this case we didn't, and which means that my crit isn't high enough, because I wasn't able to trigger Fire of the God and Bear Your Sins. So keep in mind that you absolutely need at least 50 or 60% crit on your Cleric. You can do that through an augment or anything like that. And you can't just say, no, I'm not going to invest too much into crit, I just want to crit sometimes. No, you don't do that. Why? Because many DPS players are going to use Brutality Rings to increase their DPS, and Brutality Rings proc in as soon as they enter command, so which means they have maybe 8-10 seconds to deal their maximum amount of damage, and if your buffs are not up in that amount of time, you have wasted their best rotation, and well, it's not optimal. So you absolutely want Bear Your Sins and all the debuff to be up as soon as possible, which is why you need a lot of crit, and probably much more than I have currently. So in that spirit, you should not be using Brutality, which is for PvP. You should be using this thing instead, which is Sudden Precision. You may be getting an orange one, but this one is okay, and it should be increasing your crit quite a lot. I don't have crit on this one, this is perfect. And you should crit a lot more often with that. Now I am currently at 14 crit, and well, my chance should, yes, that did, should trigger this time the debuffs, because I am at, okay, I need the combat stat to know, because I am at 50, I am at above 55% crit chance, which means that it's much better, and statistically I am going to proc Bear Your Sins within the first 3 use of Divine Mode Chains of Blazing Light. So you should be using this instead of Brutality like I do currently, but this is for PvP, like I said. You should also, well, if you are using High Prophet anyway for debuffs, you are not going to use that, so that's not relevant. You should, if you don't own High Prophet, you should use crit based gear, because it lets you debuff faster, like I said, and you should be really focusing on that. Balancing your enchantment is up to you, so you shouldn't, I'm not going to go into details about which enchantment I'm going after. You should just do that by yourself. You're going to sort this out pretty well anyway, so just remember that you crit is your main stat. It's not power, it's not recovery. With this build, it's critical strike. You want absolutely Bear Your Sins and all of the debuff up as soon as possible, and for that you need critical strike. Our secondary stats are power and recovery, which is why I picked this is appropriate. I picked the Imperial Dragon Cloak and the Imperial Waistband. This is appropriate because it has all the stats we want. It has crit, power and recovery, so you should pick that, and it also gives strength, which increases your critical chance, which is good also. So you should go for this one, and I don't really have high enough recovery right now. This is something I'm working on. I probably should trade some power for it, but well, this is another topic. I'm not here to talk about my Cleric, I'm here to talk about yours, so just to give you an idea about how much stat I want to get, I'm aiming for 16k crit, 30k power, and about 10, maybe 12k recovery. Recovery is quite important. That you shouldn't put too many points into it. As like I said, you don't really want to use your daily power all the time in most trash encounters, as these are the longest encounters you can have. And you, in theory, you don't really want to have your daily up as soon as possible in most boss fights, because current boss fights, the challenging ones, I mean, are built around boss having phases. Let's just take the example of the Castle Never boss. I'll put some picture of it in the video. The Castle Never boss has actually a few phases. You can DPS it during when you engage it, and you want maximum buffs up, so you are going to use Hallowed Ground, you are going to bear your sins, you are going to break the spirit, and use all your buffs, stack everything you can, and then it's going to get angry, and your team is going to dodge and to engage the various mechanics, and you don't want that to happen. You do not want your team to be dealing with boss mechanics, because most DPS players, even the good ones, aren't the best at dealing with mechanics. You want instead to stack as many buffs as you can at once to get the most out of your debuff, and if possible ignore mechanics. In most cases, this means that you are not going to use these things. I know this is a quite unpopular opinion, but it's bad for a cleric. You don't want to use your daily... there was one edge case, I'll talk about that later, but you don't want this as your main artifact, because it means that your team is bad. It means that the boss didn't die before the mechanic were triggered. And that's not a good thing. Instead, you don't want this either. This is a legacy from Module 6, but now every single DPS has it. Instead, you want... where's this thing? One of the PvP artifacts, which is why I'm PvP spec right now, because it's kind of difficult to get it, but it's really, really worth it if you are building your cleric for maximum debuff and doing one rotation kill. Why is the PvP campaign, for God's sake? Oh, it's here. You really want to get this campaign done, and you really want to get... where is this artifact? The Vanguard artifact, I think. It's called that way. Let's check. Where is it? Oh, it's there. Yes, you want the Vanguard's banner. Vanguard's banner at the 8% debuff that has 30 seconds. It's fairly long. Hallowed Ground lasts about 15 seconds. 12 to 15, never counted exactly, but you want actually to get the most debuffs up as you can, so that your team kills the boss in one rotation, maybe two. That's, yeah, 2 rotations is about 15 seconds, the time Hallowed Ground is up, and you don't really want to fight to dragon, and if it is, then you're in a bad spot anyway. So I don't recommend building your cleric around playing with bad players. I don't think that's how you should do it. You should do it instead to play with... you should find a good team and try to build your cleric around debuffing the target as much as you can in one rotation. So now let's talk about the weapon. The one I'm using is for PvP, okay? You should not be using that unless you're like me and like not caring at all about your health and stay in red zone and buffing anyway. It's risky, okay? Don't do that at home. This is not a good idea anyway. The weapon you want is here. Where is it? Oh, it's here. It's this one. It's actually a passive buff. And like I said, you want as many buffs up as you can to achieve this one rotation kill, maybe two. The time Hallowed Ground lasts. You want this to be up. This is good. It's 100% uptime, so you're not going to have any trouble to apply it. It's just passive. When you're in the party, it's a buff. If other DPS have it, the buff is increased. That's good. It's a weapon you should try. The weapon set you should try to get if you are PvE focused and if you want to be a buffer. You are, in the same vein, not going to use... I know this is an unpopular opinion, but you should not use... where is it? It should be there. Is this... no, it's not this one. The burning set. The burning set means you are going to be willing to spam the daily power, and the daily power isn't useful in every single fight in the game. There are times where you don't need it up as up, and you can just take your time to charge it when NPCs are dying. You're not going to cast it if the last NPC is about to die. Instead, you are going to charge your daily power with Divine Chains, and it should be up for the next big encounter. And you don't need that. You don't need the burning icon. If you need the burning icon, it means your team is bad and you didn't achieve the single rotation kill. So now, let's talk a bit about artifacts themselves. So this artifact is good for stats. You can get it. This one is 2. There aren't many absolutely optimal artifacts for a Cleric. I picked this one actually because I use Eye Prophet, and getting more hit points is critical, and stamina gain is also a good stat because it's your main survivability tool. You are going to dodge a lot, so yeah, this one is a safe bet in general, but you should not use it as primary. As like I said, you should be using the Vanguard's banner to achieve this pretty interesting one rotation kill. You can use this also if you have a control with that. This is a good artifact. You get power, you can share through how is this called already? Let's just check. Oh, Weapons of Light, yes, and you can also use it to share power through how was it called already? Anointed Action. Yes, this is a pretty solid artifact. Control with it isn't that useful, but the main stats are really good, and you should level up a control with that if you haven't already, just for this artifact. This is really a good choice. This is for PvP. Do not use that, okay? Pick the Vanguard's banner and put this one here instead, and here you are going to use your Vanguard's banner. So now that this is how you should build your Cleric. There is also one thing I want to mention before ending this video, is that you can absolutely pick some lifesteal as your guild boon. This is useful if you don't want to take care of your own heals in group content. I will show that in a later video. It's a nice thing. You should also pick the new Storm King's undergarment for your Cleric, because we don't do a lot of damage as buffers, and you want to heal yourself with lifesteal. You don't want to use Astral Seal, or you don't want to rely on Divine Glow to heal yourself, and you don't want to be dodging all the time. So having ways to heal yourself is always nice in PvE, because you are going to take damage anyway, so you can't just avoid any kind of damage, or if you do, you are not going to achieve much because you are going to dodge all the time. Boss fights are built that way. You are bound to take some damage, and having some self-healing isn't a bad thing. So I hope you learned a few things about how to build your Cleric, your buffer, your Righteous Divine Oracle buffer. And this is all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you soon.